Good afternoon. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving and you're all ready to start the second part of the semester. Hopefully, all of you are energized by now to do your best because the finals are getting closer. So, I'm hoping that everyone took advantage of the vacation and you're ready to go. Okay, so today, before we start looking at chapter 12, let's see if anyone has any questions. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, Professor, I have a question.
Yeah.
What do you call? I saw the homework was due yesterday night
Mm-hmm.
at 11:59. I came home from out of town yesterday, so can I please post it on the titanium tonight?
Yeah, you can post it, but there's gonna be a penalty. Remember that.
What's the penalty?
Well, if the homework is submitted late,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take 10 percentage points off.
Okay.
So let's say you get 100. 10% minus that will give you 90%, which is not bad. I mean,
Okay.
could be worse.
Professor.
Okay. So okay, I'll submit it to you tonight then.
Yeah, make sure you do that tonight. Otherwise, each day you're late,
Mm-hmm.
the penalty gonna change.
Yeah, and then I saw the homework number the 5. It says page 339, but there were no questions on that page. So is it at the end of the chapter or is
Why?
it,
Why there is no? There should be. Homework number 5. Let's look. What page is it?
it's let me pull it up.
Yeah, pull it out and let me know what page is it.
395.
395. Okay, let's see. 395. Okay. 395. Okay, questions. I believe it's 12 and 13. That's the homework, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm on 395.
Yeah, 12
Wait,
and 13.
wait, Professor.
Yes,
Let me show you on the
this is
video.
homework 5. This is the homework that you supposed to have submitted already. Okay. Now, homework 6 is on chapter 15, I believe. And that's, let's see here. Yeah, that's question number. I don't know. Does anyone have the homework 6? I don't
Oh
have
yeah, it's a 422 question 11 and 14, right?
422. 422.
Yes, it's 422, question 11 and 14.
422 questions.
11 and 14.
Very good. Yes, 11 and 14. That's correct. And that, I guess, is the last homework, right?
Wait, so I just want to I'll read the questions. So the homework number 5 is it number 12, suppose the spot rate of the pound today is $1.70. Is that the question?
Right.
And then the 13 is suppose the interest rate on an annual basis on 3-month treasury bills is 10%. Is that the right one?
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure because on my book it's 412 And on 395 is the reading.
Okay, yeah, so now you know.
Okay.
Which
okay.
edition do you have?
I have
Is it the 16th edition?
the 17th.
Oh, that's why. Yeah, if you have the 17th edition, then the numbers may be different. That's why on the syllabus it says you have to have the 16th edition.
Okay.
Otherwise, the numbers are going to be different.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? And I guess that's the homework 6 is the last homework. And hopefully after that, we will have once we finish chapter 16, today, hopefully we'll finish chapter 12. Thursday, we will finish chapter 14. And then after that, we will go to chapter 16, finish that. And once we finish chapter 16, then we will start the review session. Now I will try to post the likely questions beforehand for you. So at least I give you a chance to look at the likely questions. And then we will go over them together in a review session. But again, as I said, it's very important to read the notes that I have posted for you because these notes are important. And also make sure you go over the problems that I have given you, with the solutions. I've given you the solutions as well, but I really want you to try and do them first before looking at the solutions. So you get a feel of what type of problems you'll be facing in the exam. And these are probably, some of the problems that you will see in the exam. So it's important to go through them. And I've given you the solutions, step-by-step solutions to them. It shouldn't be that difficult. It's basically, these problems are the easiest problems, the ones that have to do with interest rate arbitrage, the easiest problems to solve. All what you need to know is simply the formula. I minus I star equals F minus R over R. That's basically it. If you know that, then this will help you determine whether the currency is being bought at a premium or at a discount. And once you determine that, then everything else falls in place. So it's very important to start with the F minus R over R, where F is the forward, R is the spot. And once you know that, then as I said, everything will fall in place. Okay, today what we want to do is we want to look at chapter 12, which basically deals with exchange rate determination. Now, we have already looked at how exchange rates are determined in the last chapter. And we used the demand-supply model, if you remember. And we kept shifting demand and supply. And by shifting demand and supply, we were able to determine if the exchange rate is going to go up or go down. And based on that, we were able to determine what will happen to the dollar. Will the dollar appreciate or will the dollar depreciate? So all of these things are important. Today, what we want to do is we want to take this analysis a little bit further. In other words, we want to dig deep into the different forces that will affect the exchange rate. And I have decided to actually divide these different forces into 3 types. The first type is what we call long-run structural forces. And these long-run structural forces are related to economic variables that will have an effect on the economy over the long run. In other words, the time that you are able to see the effects is usually 2 years and above. Now, what are these long-term economic variables that will affect the exchange rate in the long run? Now, this can be inflation, productivity, labor productivity, changes in technology, changes in fiscal, monetary, and trade policies, and also changes in tastes and preferences. So any change in any of these variables will affect the exchange rate over the long run. In other words, it will take you a few years to see their effects on the exchange rate. We call those long run structural forces. And then we have medium run cyclical forces. Now, what are these medium run cyclical forces? These cyclical forces are simply related to the upswings and downswings of the business cycle. For example, during a recession, in other words, if the country is going through a recession, how will this affect the exchange rate? Well, when you have a recession, you have high unemployment and you have falling incomes. Now, when your income is falling, what is going to happen to your imports of goods? Can you afford to buy goods when your income is falling from overseas?
No.
Absolutely not. So imports are a direct function of income. So when my income falls because of a recession, I will reduce my imports. And when I reduce my imports, then the demand for foreign currencies will be reduced because I am buying less. So obviously, I have less need to demand foreign currency. Now, going back to our model, demand and supply model, if you remember, we have the demand for euros, supply of euros. Now, if the US economy is going through a recession, what is going to happen to the demand and supply here? Anyone? If the US economy is going through a recession, can someone please give us an answer?
Sorry, what was the question?
If the US economy is going through a recession, how will this affect the demand supply model in the foreign exchange market?
Wouldn't supply go down and demand go up?
Why? Here, what are we talking about? The demand for what?
Wouldn't the demand for the US dollar go down? And then we would want foreign currencies since they would be worth more?
Now again, let me repeat the question. The US economy is going through a recession. As a result, what will happen to the demand and supply for foreign exchange?
Decrease demand, increase supply.
Very good. Decrease demand. The demand for foreign currency would fall. Because like we said, if the US economy is going through a recession, then incomes are falling. And if incomes are falling, US citizens are not going to be importing any goods from overseas. Therefore, the demand for euros would fall. So the demand for euro will shift down. Now, when the demand for euros shift down, how will this affect the exchange rate? These are all likely questions in the final, by the way. So you need to know, you need to trace the effects. How will the exchange rate change when the demand for euros falls? The demand shifts down.
There would be an increase in want, right? Or in demand?
There will be an increase in what?
Demand for the foreign currency, right? Because it would be cheaper.
No, there will be a decrease in demand. That's what we said.
Oops.
There's going to be a
Yeah.
downward shift in demand for euros. And I'm asking, how will this affect the exchange rate?
The exchange rate will go down to
Very good.
incentivize purchasing the foreign currency.
Very good. The exchange rate will go down. Now, when the exchange rate goes down, what will happen to the dollar?
It appreciates.
It appreciates. Very good. Appreciates. So you see, with a recession, the effect on the exchange rate is that it will appreciate the US dollar. That's what a recession would do. Okay? Very important result. Now, how about if the US economy is doing extremely well, there's economic expansions, how will this affect the foreign exchange market? Come on, someone, very quickly. You should be able to do this real fast.
It's the import will increase.
What's that?
The import will increase and then will increase the exchange rate go up.
Yeah, there will
US
be.
dollar will depreciate.
Very good. Then what will happen is that as incomes increase, imports will increase, which would mean the demand for euros would increase. And this would mean the demand will shift to the right. This will lead to an increase in the exchange rate, which means the dollar will depreciate. Okay, so again, just let the model do the work for you. I mean, you have the model, and all what you want to do here is simply shift the demand and supply accordingly. And if you do that, then the model will give you the answer of what will happen to the exchange rate, what will happen to the value of the dollar, what will happen to the value of the euro, etc. Okay, so now we have looked at two different forces, long-run structural forces, and we will explain this in a little bit more detail in just a few minutes. And we looked at the medium-run cyclical forces. And then we also have the short-run speculative forces. And these are pretty much related to changes in short-run interest rates, as well as expectations about future values of foreign currencies. That's what you have in the short run. That's how the exchange rate is affected in the short run, through interest rate differentials, as well as through expectations about future values of foreign currencies. For example, it is very possible that we may have some speculators who believe that the US dollar is overvalued. So if speculators believe the US dollar is overvalued, then they will take a short position on the dollar, which means they will start selling the dollar because they believe it's overvalued. And this will tend to depreciate the dollar by simply the expectations that speculators have. So all of these things are important. Now, the market fundamentals, like economic variables that happen to change very slowly over time, such as tastes and preferences. In other words, here we're going to be looking at the economic variables that will affect the exchange rate over the long run. In other words, it will take some time for these changes to show up on the exchange rate. Now, what are these factors, long-run factors? Well, they have to do with things such as inflation, tastes and preferences, trade policy, productivity, changes in technology. All of these things are long-run factors that will happen to impact the exchange rate over the long run. So market fundamentals that deals with economic variables happen to change very slowly over time, whereas market expectations about future market fundamentals happen to change on a daily basis, and thus will affect the exchange rate immediately or in the short run. So that's basically what you have to remember. Market fundamentals and market expectations. Market fundamentals will simply affect the exchange rate over the long run. Market expectations will affect the exchange rate over the short run. Now, let's look at these variables that will affect the exchange rate in the long run. Number one, inflation and relative price levels. Now, if the US inflation rate happens to be higher than it is in Europe, which means that prices in the US are relatively more expensive. If this is the case, then US consumers will buy more European goods, which will shift the demand curve for euros to the right and will lead to a depreciation in the dollar in the long run. Is this understood? If there is more inflation in the US than in Europe, how it will affect the exchange rate? If someone is not clear, let me know. So again, inflation does affect the exchange rate over the long run. How about differences in productivity levels? Suppose US labor is more productive than European workers. Then what can we say about the cost of US goods versus European goods? Anyone? If US labor is more productive than European workers, what can we say about the cost of goods in the US?
It'll be cheaper.
Yes, US goods will be cheaper because US labor is more productive. So if this is the case, then how would this differences in productivity affect the exchange rate?
It would cause there to be higher demand for US products, so
Correct.
it
Mhm.
would I'm like, I think it would cause the exchange rate between euros and or in US dollar to like it'd be cheaper to get US dollars for pounds, right? Or is that wrong?
No, I think you're,
I'm flipping it.
yeah, you're getting the thing right from the start, but then at the end, you pretty much lose your way. Now, what would happen here? Let's take it step by step. Now, if US goods are cheaper because of labor productivity in the US is higher than Europe, then we know we're going to be buying more US goods. Now, if we want to buy more US goods, how do we translate that into the foreign exchange market? Because remember, the foreign exchange market is looking at the demand and supply of euros. It does not look at the demand and supply of dollars. So now, if I want to demand more dollars because I want to buy more US goods, what I have to do is I have to supply more euros, correct? Because by supplying more euros, you're actually buying more dollars. That's what that means. So in this case, the supply of euros will shift to the right, which will cause the dollar to appreciate in the long run. Does everyone see this? Does everyone see this? You will be supplying more euros when you want to buy more US goods.
Yes.
Okay, so the supply of euros will shift to the right, which would mean that the exchange rate would fall. And when the exchange rate falls, the dollar appreciates. And this will take place over the long run. In other words, you're not going to see this happen immediately. It's going to take a while before you see it actually happening. Okay, so we looked at inflation. We looked at differences in productivity levels. How about differences in consumer preferences? All of these are long-run factors. Differences in consumer preferences. Suppose US consumers develop a taste for European goods relative to domestic goods. Then this will lead to an increase in demand for euros, which would mean a rightward shift in the demand for euros, which will cause the dollar to depreciate. Because when there is a rightward shift in demand, the exchange rate will go up. And when the exchange rate goes up, the dollar depreciates. Okay? So that's another thing that we can actually use to show how these long-run factors may affect the exchange rate. Now let's go to trade policy. Let's see how trade policy affects the exchange rate. Now suppose the European Union imposes tariffs on imported US goods. This will lead to fewer US goods imported. And as a result, a decrease in the demand for dollars, which will be translated into a decrease in the supply of euros. See, because when there is a decrease in demand for dollars, this can be seen through a decrease in the supply of euros, which would mean a leftward shift in the supply of euros. This will cause the exchange rate to increase, and as a result will lead to a depreciation of the dollar. Does everyone see this? Trade policy, how trade policy affects the exchange rate?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, let's move forward. Let's look at purchasing power parity, or the law of one price. Now remember, we looked at, in the short run, interest rate parity condition, whereby we said that in the short run, there is a relationship between interest rate and exchange rate. And that relationship is described through the interest parity condition, whereby we said that in the short run, for the foreign exchange to be in equilibrium, we have to have interest parity, meaning the difference between the interest rates must be exactly equal to the expected change in the exchange rate. For example, suppose the interest rate in the US is 5%, and in Europe it's 2%. So now there is a 3% difference, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, for interest parity to exist, that 3% difference must be wiped out through expected changes in the exchange rate, which would mean that the US dollar will have to depreciate by 3%. That's how we get interest parity. When the interest rate differential is exactly equal to the expected change in the exchange rate. So if it's if there is a, let's say, 2% interest differential, then for interest rate parity to exist, the dollar will have to depreciate by 2%. If there is 5% differential, then for interest parity to exist, the dollar will have to depreciate by 5%, and so on. So this is basically what is meant by interest parity condition in the short run. Now, in the long run, we have a different model that happens to explain how exchange rate is related. In other words, in the short run, we showed that there was a relationship between the exchange rate and interest rates through interest parity condition. In the long run, there is a relationship between inflation and exchange rate, or purchasing power parity, if you will. So in the short run, we have interest rate parity. In the long run, we have purchasing power parity. Now, purchasing power parity, or the law of one price, is simply a theory that depicts how exchange rates are determined in the long run. It simply states that exchange rates adjust to ensure that identical goods and services will cost exactly the same everywhere you buy them. It will cost you exactly the same in Europe, in Britain, in Malaysia, in the US. This would happen over the long run, of course, when we have purchasing power parity. When there is purchasing power parity, then the law of one price will prevail. And the reason is very simple. Because if the price of one good is higher in one country than it is in another, then there is opportunity for arbitrage. Then arbitrageurs will buy the goods where they are cheap and sell them where they are expensive. And this obviously will change the equation. And this will lead to price equalization. It will lead to the law of one price. And that's basically what purchasing power parity predicts. For example, if a basket of goods costs $500 in the US and an identical basket of goods costs 250 euros in Europe, then in the long run, we would expect the exchange rate to converge to $2 per euro. Now, suppose the basket of goods in the US increases by 10% because of inflation, and the cost of the European basket stays the same. Now, how will this affect the exchange rate? Well, using the purchasing power parity approach, we know that in the long run, both baskets must cost the same. So for this to happen, the dollar has to depreciate by 10% or increase by 20 cents, i.e., it will now increase from $2 per euro to $2.20 per euro over the long run. That's the only way we're gonna get purchasing power parity. So if there is a 10% inflation in the US, then for the basket to maintain its value versus that of Europe, in other words, for both to be exactly the same, the US dollar has to depreciate by 10% to take into account the 10% increase in inflation. And that's basically what that means. So exchange rates in the short run are determined by changes in relative interest rates and market expectations. Trades in financial assets such as treasury, corporate bonds, bank accounts, and other similar financial derivatives. These are what you see happening in the short run with trade in all of these different types of financial instruments. Now, it is obviously the real interest rate and not the nominal interest rate that investors look for to help them decide where to invest. So the real interest rate here is simply defined as the nominal interest rate adjusted for changes in the inflation rate. In other words, real interest rate is equal to the nominal interest rate minus the inflation rate. Now, if the real interest rate in the US is 4% per year, and it's 2% in Europe, then investors will prefer to invest in the US. This will cause the demand for euros to decrease and the supply of euros to increase, leading to a fall in the exchange rate or an appreciation of the dollar. Now, how about if there is a change in expectation regarding the US dollar, i.e., speculators expect the dollar to depreciate by holding a short position on the dollar. This simply means that speculators will have to start getting rid of dollars now in the expectation to buy them in the future at a lower price. And this will lead obviously to an increase in the demand for euros, which will lead to an increase in the exchange rate and a depreciation in the dollar. That's basically what you will see happening. You know, in the short run, basically, when there are interest rate differentials, and also when there are speculative expectations regarding the value of one currency versus another. All of these things will affect the exchange rate. Now, there is what we call exchange rate overshooting. This is a phenomenon that occurs rather frequently when we have the exchange rate overshoots its long run target. Does anyone know what exchange rate overshooting is? Has anyone heard about exchange rate overshooting?
I haven't.
What does it mean?
Oh, no, I said I haven't.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah. Okay. Anyone heard about this phenomenon? Exchange rate overshooting. Well, this phenomenon, basically what it refers to is that if the short run factors, which we talked about, what are the short run factors? Anyone can tell me the short run factors? What are the short run factors that affect the exchange rate?
Does it have anything to do with interest rates?
Very good. Interest rate differentials. And what else? Speculation.
Expectations about future values of foreign currencies.
Exactly. Absolutely. These are the short run factors. Now, if the short run factors happen to dominate the long run factors. Now, what are the long run factors? Come on, by now.
Does interest rates still have something to do with it?
What's that?
Interest rates?
No,
Still?
interest
No?
rates are not long run, they're short run. We want to know what are the long run factors.
Inflation,
Very good. Inflation. What else?
productivities,
Productivity. Very good. What else?
consumer preferences,
Consumer tastes and preferences. Correct.
trade policies,
Trade policy. Good. Keep going.
purchasing power parity.
Unemployment rate?
Technological changes. All of these things are long run factors that will affect the exchange rate. So, what the exchange rate overshooting is telling us is this, that if the short run factors that affect the exchange rate happen to dominate the long run factors that affect the exchange rate, then we say that the exchange rate is overshooting its long run equilibrium target, which is based on the triple P theory, purchasing power parity theory. That's when the exchange rate overshoots. So we really have to look at which factors dominate which. Now, if the short run happen to dominate, then we know that we're going to have an exchange rate overshooting. How about if the long factors dominate the short run? What are we going to have? Guess, just guess.
Just normal?
No,
Just like a normal shot at it?
no, guess.
Undershooting?
Very good. Yeah, there you go. You got it. Undershooting. Undershooting. So you see now the difference between overshooting and undershooting. Why the exchange rate overshoots and why the exchange rate may undershoot. It all has to do with the different factors that affect the exchange rate. Which factors will dominate?
What would make them dominate? Can you give us like an example? Like, is it a high interest rate or a low interest rate dominating, or?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I wish I knew. If I knew, I'll become an instant billionaire. It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult to determine which factors will dominate. You know, I mean, I can tell you, for example, a lot of it has to do with elasticities, the elasticity of supply of foreign exchange. In other words, as long as the long run elasticity of foreign exchange is different from the short run elasticity, then you will have an exchange rate overshooting. And usually this is the case. In other words, usually the long run elasticity, it's much elastic in the long run than it is in the short run. So in the short run, you will always see that the elasticity of supply is highly inelastic. But over the long run, you will see that the elasticity of supply becomes relatively more elastic. And for that reason, because of the differences in elasticities, short run versus long run, then you will always see this overshooting of the exchange rate. And unfortunately, you know, as I said, it's really very, very difficult to predict which forces are going to dominate. It's not an easy thing to do. But, you know, hopefully that will give you some explanation as to why we have overshooting taking place.
I guess my question more so is not predicting the future, but I mean, like right now, would you suggest that these lower interest rates are dominating, or how do you determine which one is the dominating factor?
Again, I mean, yeah, and you see, in the short run, you will see that there is a lot more fluctuations in the short run than it is in the long run. So I would say short run factors always dominate. Because over the long run, a lot of these things are much more stable over the long run. But in the short run, there's huge fluctuations. And interest rates, again, are things that happen to be changing very quickly in different countries based on you know, the different policies pursued by the central banks, etc. So you know, there is huge fluctuations in the short run, and as a result, you know, you would see that these forces happen to dominate. Short-run forces always happen to dominate the long-run forces. But in the long run, you know, things become more stable. In the long run, the exchange rate will usually converge to its long-run equilibrium based on the triple P, or the law of one price, or purchasing power parity. So yeah, that's basically, you know, all that I can say about the overshooting, basically. Other than that, you know, there isn't really much that we can say about it. Anyway, so this is basically, in a nutshell, all that you have to know in as far as this chapter is concerned. So just make sure that you can trace the changes in the exchange rates through using a demand supply model to show exactly how trade policy may affect the exchange rate, labor productivity, inflation, interest rate differentials, speculations, business cycles. All of these things are extremely important, and there will be many, many questions in the final exam regarding all of these factors, and testing your understanding and testing your ability to analyze and to trace all the effects of these changes on the exchange rate. And also, you know, you have to know what the exchange rate overshooting is. So by now, I'm sure most of you know what that is. Okay, I guess that's basically all that I have to say about this chapter. There isn't really anything else that I want to add. And if you just focus on what we have done here, I think you should be on the right path to actually answering all the questions in the final exam regarding this chapter. Any questions? Anyone has any questions?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Do you happen to trade currency yourself? Do you invest in it?
Do I do what?
Do you invest in other currencies and stuff like that? Do you buy and sell
No.
currency?
No, I've never done that. That's very dangerous, highly risky, and I won't do that. You know, I mean, I did invest in the bond market, stock market. Those are the things that I do invest in, but currencies, very, very risky. You know, it's not something that I would recommend for anyone to do, basically.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you are George Soros.
What's that?
Unless you are George Soros.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Soros. Well, you know, Soros has made billions and he has lost billions. So that tells you that even the most expert cannot run away from this type of risks. Very, very difficult.
It's exactly like gambling.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Are you ending class?
What's that?
Are you ending class or are we moving on to
Yeah,
another chapter?
no, well, I'm going to end it right here because this is, you know, the end of the chapter. We really don't want to get into a new chapter today. We will leave that on Thursday. We will go to chapter 15. And then after that, we'll go to chapter 16. All we have is just 2 more chapters left, 15 and 16.
Okay. The homework, there was homework due today. I missed that over the break. Is it possible that I can still turn it in, please?
Yeah, you can turn it in, as I said. Yeah, no problem. But as I said, you know, there will be a penalty, 10% reduction. So let's say if you get an 80% on the homework, you will end up with a 70%. If you get a 90%, you will end up with an 80%.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Yeah, so you can always, yeah. And I do encourage those of you to, even those of you who were not able to submit it now. It's important because whatever you get will be an added bonus. It's better getting an 80% rather than 0, or 70% rather than 0.
Is there
So,
extra credit opportunities?
what's that?
Extra credit opportunities?
No, there are no extra credit, unfortunately.
Okay.
No extra credit. But so far, I mean, when I look at your homeworks, I mean, most of you have done extremely well on the homework. And the midterm exam, the average was very, very high. So I don't know why some of you are really looking for extra credit. Um,
I'm currently I think my overall grade is at 87%.
okay, that's pretty good.
So I want to make sure like I'm in the A range. Like,
Well, you still have 5% coming your way on the class report. That's 5% right there.
oh, that's
So
5%.
yeah, 5% on the class report. So you're fine.
Okay.
You're fine. And then, of course, you have the writing assignment, and you have the final exam. So you still have a lot of opportunities to actually do extremely well in this course. And there is no reason why you shouldn't be able to do very well in this course. I have tried my best to make it as simple as possible and to leave out a lot of the material which I felt really is not that important. What it does is it complicates things more than it adds anything. That's the reason why I have weeded them out. So, you can see from the notes that I've given you here, especially those that were taken from my book, very, very straightforward, self-explanatory, and hey, if you follow these things, you should be able to do well. That's all I can say, basically.
It's 2 weeks from Thursday, right?
Yeah, the exam. Let me tell you when the exam is. I really have the date for the exam. I'll tell you exactly when it is. Well, it's gonna be December 17th from 1 to 2:50. So you may want to note this in your calendars. December 17 from 1 p.m. to 2:50 p.m.
So 2 weeks from Thursday.
Yep. Everyone got that? Does everyone know when the final exam is?
Yes.
Good. So just please make sure you write it down, because from previous experiences, I had students come to me and say, well, they didn't know that the final exam was on such a date and they really didn't take it. And now, they want me to give them an opportunity to retake it. That's going to be tough. I can't do it, basically. If you miss the final, you miss it, period. There's really nothing else I can do. That's why it's very important to write it down on your calendar. Make sure that you take the final exam on the allotted date. No ifs or buts. Just gotta be responsible. So don't please come to me and say, well, unless of course there are certain extenuating circumstances, like for example, if you were sick or you weren't able to make it for some, explainable reasons, then, that's fine. I mean, we're not perfect, but, there are certain things that we can accept and other things that we can't. So, we just have to be rational about these things. But apart from that, make sure, you put it down on your calendar and just be ready to take the final exam on the allotted date.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Any more questions?
Yeah, Professor. So when is homework 6 due now?
I think I already put the date for you on titanium. I don't remember now. Has anyone looked at homework 6 due date on titanium?
I think the last time I
Thursday?
checked, it says it's due Thursday.
Yeah, what?
Friday. It says Friday, December 4th at 11:59.
Yeah, okay, December 4th. Right. Okay, and the reason is simply because, no, I mean, if you needed more time, I mean, that's fine. I could give you more time if you feel that, hey, you are pretty much stretched for time and you won't be able to, submit it on December 4th. The reason why I want to do that is because, remember, I want to make sure that all the homework is in so we can go over it if anyone has any questions. And also, I want to make sure that, you know, uh, I don't have to worry about the homework not being submitted. So if all the homework is being submitted and all the grades are being entered, that really takes one huge pressure off of me and I can concentrate on other things. That's the main reason why I want you to make sure you submit the homework by December 4th. So I can at least allocate the necessary time towards doing other things in as far as going over homework solutions, going over reviews, etc. That's basically the main reason why. But as I said, if you feel that you're really stretched for time and you want to have a couple of days more before you can submit it, that's fine. So just let me know and I'll be more than happy to do that for you. But other than that, I really, really like to see you submitted by December 4th. So, as I said, I can allocate my time a little bit more efficiently towards other areas. Okay.
Okay.
All righty. So if there are no more questions, then I'm going to end the session, I guess. If there are no more
Professor, I have
questions.
a question.
Yes, go ahead.
When is the class report due? Is it due the same day as the writing assignment?
Yes. And it's going to be a 1-page, double space. And as I said, all what I want you to do is simply tell me what your expectations were in taking this course. That's all, in your own words. So in this case, there is no correct or wrong answers. Everyone that submits a 1-page report will get that 5 percentage points added to your grade. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Professor,
Yes.
for the same kind of question, I already submitted it. I wrote what we have learned so far and what I've taken from that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's good. Anyone else?
So someone in the chat wants to know what time the final is
Yeah.
on the 17th.
Yeah, it's going to be from 1 p.m. to 2:50 p.m. So it's going to be earlier than when the class starts. 1 p.m. to 2:50 p.m. Everyone got that?
Yes.
Oh.
Okay.
I think I'll tell you, but I think I have another final at that time too.
Can't, it's impossible.
Oh, I can't.
No, it's just impossible because these are, I mean, these are things that I do not schedule them. It's
Oh, okay.
the school schedules them, and the school will schedule them in such a way that they will make sure there's not going to be any conflict.
Oh, okay. Then I'm fine. I'm fine.
Yeah, you
Okay.
should be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that too, because some of my other classes, like in the syllabus, they have the same time and date, but I thought that was wrong. But I haven't been able to get contact with my professor yet.
Yeah, just make sure, get in contact with your professor and find out.
I would check your portals when you go to your student center, and it's gonna tell you what time all your final exams are. So if like any of you are like confused about conflicts, I would check that first because sometimes, sorry, my niece is coughing. Because sometimes professors write down like the wrong times on accident. So I would check that first, and then.
Very good. Thank you, Samantha.
Thanks.
Very good. Excellent point. Any other questions?
Professor?
Yes.
One of my homework is 95%. So can I ask like the reason why is that? Like, should I email you or?
Yeah, you could email me and I will go back to look at your homework and tell you exactly why you got 95%. I'm sure you must have missed something. Otherwise, I would not have given you 95.
Thank you.
Okay. Pretty much, when it comes to grading, I'm very lax, by the way, as you can see. In other words, if I really want to be strict with grading, oh boy. I mean, a lot of you probably would not get 100%. Very, very few will get 100% on their homework. But usually, I'm very laxed, and if I gave you a 95%, that simply means that you pretty much left something out.
Is the Word document that we were just going through, is it available on Titanium or?
Yes. Yeah, everything is posted on Titanium. I have posted all the chapters for you. And all these notes are taken directly from my book. So at least, I'm giving you a different perspective on what exchange rates are from my own perspective. And you can always, of course, again, go to your PowerPoints. You will get a different perspective. But as I said, right now, you really don't have the luxury of reading the book. Right now, you just want to look at the notes, summarized notes, basically, and just zero in on the most important points. You can't really look for details right now. These details should have been doing, in the past 4, 5, 6 weeks. But now, as the time approaches the final, you really have less of an opportunity, I guess, to be able to go over all the chapters. So your best bet would simply be to focus on certain areas, on certain points. And I guess the notes that I have posted for you will pretty much give you a much, much better picture of what you need to do in order to prepare for the final exam.
Professor, do you have office hours tomorrow?
Office hours, yes. I'm sorry, by the way, I wasn't able to make it on Monday because I was really sick.
Oh, are you better now?
Yeah, I'm a little bit. I'm still, not 100%, but yeah, of course, I'm much better than yesterday, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was really, I mean, I had the flu. And, you know, the flu is something that really, really puts a drain on me. And, you know, I even tested for COVID.
COVID.
Yeah, turned out negative. Thank God.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, even though I took the flu shot 2 months ago, but that didn't help. I still had the flu. So that's why you have to be very, very careful.
Yeah, sometimes that.
Especially, you know, people in our age. Now, I'm sure most of the kids here, you don't have to worry that much, but when you get to my age, things get a little bit different.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that easy. Not that easy.
When that happened,
yeah.
When that happened, maybe drink a lot of hot ginger tea. Hot ginger tea.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I remember, you know, 30, 40 years ago, I mean, things were pretty much easy and simple for me. I really wasn't worried too much because, you know, I was young, healthy, and but now things are different, you know, 45 years after. It's not easy. So 45 years, you know, that's a long, long time to actually, but, you know, it is what it is, I guess. And we just have to move on.
Yeah, everybody will go into that day someday.
Oh yeah, someday everyone's gonna go through it. There's no escape. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna end the session now.
Oh wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
Well, not really a question. Well, yeah, I guess it is a question. My bad. So you were talking about potentially giving more time for the homework, and I was like, right now, like I'm gonna do my best to get it done like on time, but I just have like a lot of stuff for my classes, and I had a very stressful break, so I wasn't able to get that much done just because there was a lot of family stuff happening. And so I'm like starting to feel a bit overwhelmed because of all the deadlines I have, but I want to like still try to make it. But then I was just going to kind of ask if I could like potentially get more time if I did need it.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. Thank you,
Just let me
Professor.
know, okay? Just let me know.
Well, thank you, Professor. You better go drink some hot ginger tea.
Yeah.
Ginger tea, yes. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do right now. Just gonna
Okay.
go make me hot tea.
Yeah, take care.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate that. And I guess
Bye.
I will,
See
you know,
you.
hopefully I should be able to make it for tomorrow's office hours. But if not, then please forgive me. If you find that I'm not there, that simply means that I'm not able to be with you during those office hours.
Well, then
But I will try. I will try to make it.
Yeah, if by somehow you don't do it, if I have question, can I email you?
Yep, sure.
Okay, thank
Absolutely. Yeah, no problem.
you. Okay, take care.
Okay,
Thank you,
take
Professor.
care. Thank you very much, all of you. Really appreciate that. And hopefully I'll see you Thursday. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Professor.
Yes.
Just really quick to say that I already emailed you, so hopefully you receive it, and then help me figure out like why did I get the
Okay.
on the
Sure,
homework.
yeah, I'll look into it.
Thank you so much.
I will look into it and I'll let you know.
Thank
Okay.
you. Yeah, thank you.
All right.